Well, welcome to another How Conversation on Moral Leadership. Today we have with us a special guest, Jennifer Musisi, who has been a moral leader throughout the globe, but in particular, changing the city of Kampala. Jennifer, it's great to have you with us today. How are you doing?
Doing very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Moral leadership and exercising positions of authority is not new to you. You started your journey as a state attorney, and you also have served as a commissioner for legal services boards in Uganda. You've served as an ambassador for the UN Sustainability Developmental Goals, in particular, making cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. And then most recently, and for 8 years, serving as the Executive Director of Kampala City Authority. Jennifer, thank you for joining us today on a discussion and a conversation about moral leadership. I know something that is just you. Welcome to our conversation.
Thank you so much, Dana. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Let's get right into it, because many of our listeners might not have the appreciation like you do of Kampala. Tell us a little bit about the city and what the city is like.
Thank you, Dana. And thank you for that humbling introduction. Kampala City is a city of 5 million people plus during the day. It's the capital city of the country. There's a lot of trade and the population grows every day. We have a very high rural-urban migration situation, and so the city is sprawling and growing outwards. It's a city that's very vibrant, very beautiful. The weather is amazing. It's set on the shores of the beautiful Lake Victoria.
I see you light up with great pride about your city. And share with us, if you can, about the city and your journey over 8 years serving in the city authority. What was your mandate, and tell us a little bit about what you were supposed to accomplish? What were the expectations on you in that role?
So the city basically fell apart, and the government wanted to get a handle on the capital city again. So the parliament passed a law transferring the administration of the city from a local government to a central government and created the Kampala Capital City Authority. And I was appointed as the first executive director of the city, basically to turn the city around, to transform the city from where it was in its degenerated state to something that people would be proud of. So that was my mandate. This
sounds like the ultimate of a leadership challenge that required from you incredible moral courage as well as a really clear purpose. What brought you into creating change, or what attracted you to taking on this incredible challenge?
Yes, I think one of my biggest motivations is the knowledge that when we're entrusted with leadership, we're entrusted with a responsibility to make change where change needs to be made. And stepping into a leadership position, especially as the levels get higher, is an opportunity for us to do that, to change people's lives, to contribute to improvement of situations, and basically make a positive change. So every time I've got into a position of responsibility, I've looked at myself and decided this is the opportunity that I have to do what I need to do, make a difference, leave this place better than when I found it. Also because I love my city, I love my country, and I wanted to make a contribution to making things better.
Give us a few examples of some of the particular specific corruption activities that were happening and how you approached those to turn them around.
First of all, corruption erodes systems. So a lot of the systems were broken down, whether there were systems of service delivery, where the contractors were compromised and compromising the officials that should be supervising them. Eventually, the solution is building sound systems and laying down the groundwork and emphasizing corruption, integrity, and diligence commitment, values like that, eventually the results begin to show in the output that comes out of the organization.
How did you go about creating that trust in the new system over what was happening that was more corrupt and hard to track?
What we found in place in the revenue collection area was a manual revenue collection system. So basically, clients went to the bank and paid their taxes and got paper receipts after queuing up for a long time. So we started out by beginning to build an electronic revenue management system. We built an electronic database showing all the different taxpayers and then put in all the different tax heads. And then we linked that system to the telephone supply companies that provided us with their mobile platforms, so the taxpayers could then, using their mobile phones, which most people had, to pay their taxes using their phones or their computers. So it became more efficient. But also, because it was now a system, it was predictable and it removed the human element and therefore the human interventions, which are a cause of corruption. It was expensive to begin with, but eventually it paid off. And in 5 years, we grew the revenue to over 198%, which was remarkable in any aspect that you looked at it, because the system was functioning and it really, really helped to turn around the whole situation with revenue in the city.
I think I read and heard from you, you had been shot at in your office, as well as found a grenade in your car. Leadership is dangerous, as we are learning here. Who was out to get you and why?
So when you begin building systems of accountability, when you begin cutting off the irregular transactions, when you start contracting according to the regulations, you are actually interfering the financial interests of a lot of people. We got a lot of threats. Some of us were attacked. Some of my staff were physically beaten up. We had people coming into my office one time with machetes. There was a grenade found under my car. There was, all sorts of crazy stuff was happening. But it made me realize that if they were willing to put up a fight this big, that means what they're losing is also very big. So that even gave us more determination and made us resolute to see that whatever they were fighting for was big enough for us to fight and claw back for the benefit of the citizens.
Wow, and with that challenge, you still saw the humanity in everyone and trying to lead change for their betterment. And yet you must have at some point felt as though you were putting maybe you or your family at such risk. Did you consider ever resigning, or what kept you obviously in the fight? As you said, it was a war for the benefit of those you were trying to help.
First of all, it was the desire to make a difference and to know that it could be done. If we persisted, it could be done. That they couldn't let the bad guys win. Secondly, it was the impact that we already saw almost from day one. We saw the impact on the city, we saw the impact on the citizens, we saw the impact on services that were being delivered, and the public was really, really appreciating what we're doing, although some did not understand it at first, but we began to see as we gained traction. I think the other one was the team that I was working with, the team that I was leading, very determined, very passionate, very committed, willing to go the whole way to work through this and fight through this. So we encouraged each other a lot of the time. There were risks, as you mentioned, risks to my family, to my children. Many times my children were threatened. And at that time, I did not think of giving up. I did not think of giving in to the bad guys. I just felt we needed to take it the whole way through.
I would like to hear if there's a framework maybe you have to offer our listeners of a way that you approached this unpopular change sometimes maybe unprofitable for some people and incredibly difficult. How did you approach this change?
Finding out and crystallizing what needs to be done. What is it that needs to be done? What are the resources that we need to get it done? Who are the team that I'm going to work with? What will it take? Who is doing what? And then basically looking at the law as well, making sure that what we're doing is within the law, and looking for sponsors in key positions that we could talk to amplify our voice in terms of what we're doing and explain it in places where people may not listen to us. And if it was, say, working on the infrastructure, we engage the financiers, the people, the organizations that were financing these projects. If it was social engagement, we made sure that we went in first to engage the public, to help them appreciate what we're doing before the other people came in to tell them all sorts of negative things. But it was a challenge. It was a challenge, and we had some team members falling off because they couldn't handle the pressure and the impact. We had some falling off, which was understandable, but the majority of them stayed and carried on.
So I'd like to share with our listeners a quote from you that really gets at this challenge of the team, and not just your challenge, but the inspiring and bringing others with you to do the right thing. The quote reads, "My team at first was expected to work long hours without even being sure when they would be paid. But I reminded them that they were liberated people. I kept telling my team, the moment that a public servant is free from the fear of losing their job, then they're ready to do their job." What are some ways that you go about inspiring and elevating others, or even hiring, getting people to get on your team with you as you're trying to take on the city of Kampala?
Thank you, Dana. First of all, I was looking out for people that had a similar vision, people that had a desire to see our city change, people that were willing to pay the price in terms of time and the energy that it would take. No one really understood, no one really imagined how hard it would be, or whether we'd have security threats as to the level that we did, but we knew it would be a lot of hard work, a lot of grit and determination. The other thing that I also was very intentional about was understanding and showing every single member of the team that they were important, that they were critical to us reaching the vision that we had set. Whether you were the guy that made the coffee in the office, whether you were the driver, whether you were the highly technical engineering, traffic engineering expert, or the waste management expert, we considered everybody equally important. But also important is the ability to give the team members space to innovate, to take risks, a safe space where they can take risks without fearing that they'll get reprisals if things go wrong, and also being there when things went wrong, because sometimes things went wrong. I was the leader, I'll take the flak, and then I'll, behind closed doors, I'll deal with my staff and tell them where we needed to adjust and what needed to be done better next time. And when we did get success and great goals reached, which we did many, many times, we got so many awards globally for the work that we're doing, I was always very deliberate in sharing this credit, giving it first back to the team.
I'm curious to hear from you. What was your favorite place where you exercised your moral leadership in a position of authority, and what was your hardest? And which one taught you the most about leadership?
The last, the position I was in as Executive Director of Kampala was the most challenging. It was one I learned most in, and it was one where I had to exercise moral courage in a lot of different ways. And for me, one of the strongest pillars to teach me morality was my mother. She emphasized, we were not rich people, but she emphasized the need to be moral, the need to be polite, the need to be kind, they need to work hard. And so I grew up with these values in mind. And because that's how my mother had raised me. I wanted to make a difference and to perhaps be a model for young people to know it's okay, you can be a person of integrity and still be a good leader.
We have many listeners of many different levels around the globe. And I'm going to ask you to give advice for young moral leaders who are finding themselves in positions of authority, trying to exercise this moral muscle to uphold values and uphold standards in the way that you did in Kampala City. What advice do you have for them?
So it's important for us to be resolute, to be firm and focused on where we want to get. I have had situations where my job is at risk because I have disagreed with my supervisor on something that I think is not correct, whether it's procedure or legally or a decision, and I've stood the risk of losing my job. But I was ready to take that risk, provided I protected myself professionally and didn't compromise on what I believe. Because once you compromise, then it's very difficult to turn the clock back, and it will affect the relationships even more negatively because they'll know that you're able to compromise. So I think it's the safest space for us is to remain professional, to remain true to what we believe, and to remain focused on our vision. That will get us places professionally and will help us achieve more. I know people that have lost their jobs for taking a stand, but I think they leave feeling better about themselves than if they had done the opposite.
Jennifer Musisi, we have had an amazing conversation on moral leadership. That wisdom is not just for young leaders, for all of us of all ages. We learned recently that Musisi, your surname, stands for, or is earthquake, I think translated, which is the rumbling of the earth's surface from a disruption or explosion deep inside. And I believe that that is an accurate naming for you, Jennifer Musisi, and the moral wave that you are creating in common cause with the Howe Institute for Society. We thank you so much for your wisdom and your time today, and for your leadership that is moral leadership with moral courage around the globe. Thank you so much. We wish you well.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you so much.